the shout that broke the chamber. The Galactic Concord chamber was designed to inspire awe, an amphitheater of white alloy, arched ceilings glowing with soft azure light, and suspended holographic displays projecting star charts like floating constellations. 178 species sat in ascending rows, their colors, crimson, sapphire, jade, gold, forming a living spectrum. They murmured in dozens of languages as the session opened, the atmosphere tense enough to fracture. General Cassandra Hale stood at the center podium, the only human in the chamber wearing a military uniform instead of diplomatic robes. Her blue coat was razor-pressed, her posture iron-straight. Anyone who looked at her could see she wasn't here to negotiate. Not anymore. For the record, the Concord speaker droned, "Humanity brings charges against the Dravari Dominion regarding the destruction of 4 registered colonies." Destruction? Hale interrupted sharply. "Call it what it is. Mass murder." The chamber rustled with discomfort. Species known for emotionlessness, like the crystalline Zuri, shifted uneasily. To many of them, humans were still new, unpredictable, explosive. A Dravari representative rose slowly from his seat. His scales gleamed dark red, his eyes narrow slits of pale gold. "Your accusations are baseless. Our patrols merely neutralized illegal human encroachments. Your species breeds like a disease." Hale's jaw tightened. "Vega 3 housed 8,000 civilians. I have hollow footage of your soldiers dragging children into containment ships. Do you call that neutralization?" A ripple of tension passed through the rows, some sympathetic, most indifferent. The Dravari shrugged, a cold smile exposing serrated teeth. "Stray cattle. Nothing more. That did it." Hale's fist clenched on the podium. Weeks of restraint, diplomatic pressure from Earth, the desperate hope that peaceful means still existed. All of it snapped inside her. She stepped forward, her voice rising like thunder. "You butcher our people," she said, "and you expect us to sit here and pretend your lies have meaning?" A few representatives hissed warnings. Others leaned forward, fascinated. The Dravari spread his hands mockingly. "Human, you should learn your place. This galaxy does not bend for primitives." Hale slammed her palm on the podium so hard the sound echoed through the chamber like a shockwave. Dozens flinched instinctively. She pointed directly at the Dravari, her voice cutting across the room with the precision of a blade. "You want war?" she shouted. "We'll give you a war zone." It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise wrapped in raw fury. The chamber erupted. Representatives stood from their seats, shouting in their own languages. The Zari delegates refracted light in distress, turning their crystalline bodies into shimmering warnings. The insectoid oryx clicked violently, signaling danger. Security drones dropped from the ceiling, humming as they scanned for escalating conflict. The Dravari ambassador hissed, baring rows of predatory teeth. "You dare threaten the Dominion? You threatened my people first," Hale shot back. "And now you've threatened the galaxy." The Concord speaker slammed its gavel. "Order! Order! Humanity, you're dangerously close to violating." "Violating what?" Hale snapped. "A code that the Dominion ignores every cycle. A peace the Concord refuses to enforce. We're done being your convenient scapegoats." A murmur swept the hall. Every species knew she wasn't wrong. Humanity had advanced faster than any species expected. In 2 centuries, they had gone from orbital infancy to interstellar manufacturing giants. Many in the chamber feared them. Many resented them. And some, quietly, admired them. A soft chime sounded in Hale's ear. Her command ship, Aegis Crown, was requesting confirmation. She straightened and spoke loudly for all to hear. "Effective now, humanity withdraws from the Concord. We will no longer abide by treaties that protect our attackers." Gasps rippled outward like a shockwave. A few representatives rose in alarm. Others, particularly those oppressed by the Dravari in the past, watched with interest, hope even. "You cannot do this," the Concord speaker cried. "I just did." Hale tapped her wrist console. A holographic display flared around her, a live channel to Earth. President Kaido's stern face appeared, surrounded by military advisors. "General Hale," he said, "you have authorization. Bring our people home." The chamber fell into stunned silence. The Dravari emissary leaned forward, venom dripping from every word. "You have signed your species' extinction." Hale met his glare without blinking. "We survived our own extinction once. We won't let you finish what nature couldn't." As she turned to leave, 2 human guards flanked her. The entire chamber watched her walk up the aisle, some with fear, some with admiration, some with the dawning realization that the galaxy had just shifted. The Zari delegate whispered to her neighbor, their crystalline voice barely audible. "The humans have declared open conflict. The Dominion has awakened a fire they cannot contain." By the time Hale reached the exit, the Concord was still in uproar. Arguments, panicked debates, demands for emergency protocols. But one thing echoed above all the noise, her shout. "You want war? We'll give you a war zone." It traveled through the chamber, through the political networks, through every listening outpost on Concord channels, and across the silent dark of space. The Dravari Dominion heard it too, and they prepared, because humanity had just drawn a line across the stars. The war zone awakens. The Aegis crown hovered above Earth like a steel titan, an orbital fortress bristling with cannons, shield arrays, and launch bays large enough to swallow a small moon. As General Cassandra Hale stepped onto its command deck, officers snapped to attention. Red alert banners pulsed across the hollow screens, bathing everything in a warlike crimson glow. "General on deck," the chief officer barked. Hale didn't slow her stride. "Status: DEFCON Omega confirmed. All fleets are mobilizing. Orbital defense rings charging." He hesitated. "The president is in the war room, waiting for your report." Hale nodded and proceeded down the central corridor. Technicians rushed past her. Soldiers ran in formation. Drones zipped overhead, carrying weapons crates. The fortress felt alive, an engine roaring for battle. Earth wasn't preparing for a war. Earth was preparing for retribution. President Kaido stood before a hollow map projecting the Sol system in stunning detail. Dozens of admirals and generals surrounded him, tension coiled tight in their stance. "Hail," Kaido said when she entered. "The Dominion fleet is already moving. Scouts confirm they're assembling at the Black Crescent Nebula." "That's a staging zone for invasions," Hale replied. "They're not wasting time." "Neither can we," the president said. Operation Iron Horizon is activated. The hollow map shifted, now showing human battle groups launching from Titan, Jupiter's orbit, and the far colonies. Ships shimmered into slipstream lanes, leaving streaks of light like comets. "We have one advantage," Kaido continued. "Athena Protocol has been recalculating all possible outcomes." The AI's voice filled the room. Calm, cool, disturbingly honest. "Probability of survival under traditional warfare, 17.2%. A silence fell. Then Athena added, "Probability of survival with unconventional tactics. Recalculating, pending General Hale's strategic approval." Kaido looked at her, not with pressure, but trust. "Cass, this is your war to lead." Hale didn't hesitate. "Show me the prototypes." They entered the R&D platform, an enormous hangar suspended beneath the Aegis crown, where the most classified technologies humanity had created waited like sleeping beasts. The first was the quantum phase infantry armor, black plates shimmering like rippling water. A scientist tapped a command, and the armor flickered, phasing momentarily out of physical reality. With this, soldiers can avoid energy impacts and bypass conventional barriers, he explained. The second, slipstream torpedoes, long silver projectiles that glowed faintly blue. These weapons curve through space-time itself, the engineer said. They don't travel to targets, they appear inside them. The third, the gravity well rupture mines, ominous silver spheres humming with gravitational energy. One detonated mine can crush a cruiser. A cluster can implode a fleet. Hale studied each weapon coldly, analytically. The galaxy has no idea how far we've advanced. The scientists swallowed. General, if we deploy all this, we can't go back. We passed the point of return when the Dominion massacred Vega 3. She turned to the officers. Prepare them. All of them. The officers exchanged looks, fear, awe, and grim acceptance. Hours later, alarms blared across the Aegis Crown. Dravari fleet attacking the Vega line, a comms officer shouted. Hale strode to the central screen. The Vega line, 6 human colonies on the frontier, flashed with red distress signals. Patch me through to the Vanguard fleet. Admiral Saren appeared, her face lit by the glow of emergency lights. Explosions reflected off her visor. We're outnumbered 20-1. They came through a hidden slip corridor. Hold the line, Hale ordered. Deploy gravity mines and phase infantry, and activate every defense platform. Vega doesn't fall. Saren didn't ask questions. Understood. Moments later, the battle unfolded across the screens. Human gravity mines detonated with blinding light, imploding ships into crushed fragments. Slipstream torpedoes vanished, then reappeared inside Dravari vessels, tearing them apart from within. Phase-armored soldiers flickered across the battlefield like ghosts, unleashing havoc on boarding units. For the first time in recorded history, a Dravari assault was stopped cold. Hale activated a channel to all combat units. Her voice carried calm fire. This is General Hale. Today is not a war of survival. It is the birth of humanity's ascendancy. Across fleets, cheers erupted. But Earth would not stand alone for long. As the battle raged, Hale received encrypted transmissions from 3 alien species. The first hologram flickered into form. The insectoid Oryx War matriarch, Mandible of 17, her multifaceted eyes glimmering. The Dominion hunts us as well, she said. Aid us, human general, and we will aid you. Next came the crystalline Zari High Seer, his body refracting the room into rainbow shards. Our people have suffered under Dravari threats. We offer intelligence and fleet crystals. Last, an aquatic Lyral envoy, water swirling around her ethereal form. Humanity rises with courage. We rise with you. Hale absorbed it all. Allies, real allies, not political bystanders. A Warzone coalition, she murmured. Kaido's voice echoed in her earpiece. They believe in you, Cass. Good, Hale said, because this is only the beginning. Hours later, as the Vega line stabilized and human forces pushed back into contested territory, a chilling new transmission arrived. It was the Dravari Emperor. His massive reptilian face filled the screen, scales gleaming like polished obsidian. General Hale, he growled, you will kneel before me. Your skull will hang from my spire as a warning to all who defy the Dominion. Hale stared at him without emotion. I've already warned you. She cut the transmission. Outside the windows of the Aegis Crown, human fleets regrouped, lights flickering like stars preparing for war. The war zone had awakened, and the galaxy was beginning to realize humanity wasn't fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to win. The fires of humanity. The Vega corridor had always been the frontier, raw, dangerous, dotted with half-terraformed worlds and outposts clinging to life. Now it had become something else entirely. A battlefield. The largest Dravari armada ever recorded emerged from the nebula like a living storm. War beasts strapped to hulls screeched, their neural chains glowing. Super dreadnoughts dwarfed the human defense platforms. Fighter swarms poured out like metallic locusts. On the bridge of the Valor Ascendant, Hale watched the enemy fill her screens. 73 capital ships, the tactical officer whispered. Thousands of auxiliaries. 23 war beasts. Hale's voice stayed calm. We hold this line. If Vega falls, Earth is next. Admiral Saren appeared beside her. We're outnumbered beyond doctrine. We should retreat. No, Hale said. We turn this battlefield into the war zone they wanted. She walked to the center command ring. Prepare gravity well rupture fields. Deploy phase infantry on the flanks. Bring the slipstream torpedoes online. Officers scrambled. One whispered, "She's serious." Another murmured, "She's going to break the sector." Hale raised her voice. Broadcast to all ships. The comms light blinked green. Across the Vega line, human soldiers, pilots, engineers, everyone heard her words. Humanity doesn't bow. Not to tyrants. Not to empires. Today we show them why. The battle began with a roar. The first wave of Dravari cruisers surged forward, hurling plasma bombardments toward the human platforms. Hale gave the order. Detonate gravity mines. Now, a cascade of white detonations tore open localized rifts. The fabric of space twisted, collapsing like glass under a hammer. Dravari cruisers were crushed into jagged ruins, their hulls flattened by invisible fists. "Direct hit," the officer yelled. 3 enemy lines obliterated. But the Dravari were relentless. Their second wave adjusted formation, weaving around the gravitational wreckage. War beasts lunged through the vacuum, their mouths glowing as they fired bioplasma. "Deploy phase infantry," Hale commanded. On the battlefield, hundreds of human soldiers flickered into shimmering existence, black armor flickering between physical and quantum phases. They leapt onto Dravari boarding crafts, passing through hull plating, reappearing inside corridors like phantoms. Gunfire erupted. Screeches filled comms. A phase trooper's voice crackled through the link. Quantum teams breaching, engaging interior command nodes. The Dravari's advantage in number began to erode, but they still had more. The enemy super dreadnoughts advanced. They eclipsed stars. Their hulls pulsed with molten orange veins. One opened its maw-like cannon and fired a beam that sliced through a human destroyer, turning it into slag. Hale's jaw tightened. Slipstream torpedoes. Fire. The torpedoes vanished. No trail, no travel, just disappearance. Then, boom, boom, boom. Explosions erupted inside the dreadnoughts from deep within their cores. Ships that had survived 1,000 battles split open in seconds, their remains scattering like burning shrapnel. "General," Saren said, stunned, "we're actually pushing them back." "Human ingenuity," Hale replied quietly. "They don't know how we fight." As the tide shifted, 3 new fleets arrived. Translucent crystalline ships of Azari, angular insectoid destroyers of the Oryx, and the elegant tide ships of the Lyral. The bridge gasped. "They came," Saren whispered. "They actually came." Hale nodded. "Coalition forces join our assault." The Zari refracted enemy lasers through their crystalline hulls, bending beams into devastating arcs that tore through Dravari wings. Oryx assassins infiltrated command ships, taking out officers with silent precision. Lyral wave dancers unleashed high-pressure cannons, warping enemy shields with bursts of condensed water fired at impossible velocities. For the first time in galactic history, small species stood beside humanity, not behind it. The battle shifted, but the Dravari still had one final strike. A massive disturbance rippled through the battlefield as a Dravari Titan-class carrier uncloaked. It dwarfed everything in orbit, dripping plasma like molten blood. Hale recognized it instantly. The Scourge of Worlds, the flagship of Admiral Korthas, the Dominion's most brutal executioner. "Korthas," Hale murmured. "I was hoping he'd show." The carrier opened fire immediately. Human cruisers detonated. Coalition ships reeled. Korthas's voice boomed through an open channel. "Human Hale, I've waited for your skull as my trophy." Hale's eyes narrowed. "Boarding units," she said. "Prepare insertion." Saren spun toward her. "General, are you insane? That ship is a fortress." "Good," Hale replied. "I like a challenge." Within minutes, her strike squad assembled, phase-armored elite Marines armed with compressed rail blades and shock carbines. The insertion pods launched. They slammed into the Scourge of Worlds like meteors. Hale's team burst through corridors filled with fire and smoke, phasing through bulkheads, carving through warriors twice their size. Alarms blared across the enemy flagship. "Hale, breaching command deck," she said into her comms. "Prepare to cut off the Admiral." She kicked open the final blast door. Admiral Cortez stood waiting, 7 feet tall, armored, monstrous. You come to die, human. He'll step inside, rail blade humming. You wanted war, she said softly. Welcome to the Warzone. They clashed. The fight was brutal, steel against scale, sparks flying, the deck cracking beneath their blows. Cortez lunged with a plasma halberd. Hail phased at the last second, reappearing behind him and driving her rail blade into his armor. He roared. She finished him with a strike that snapped his halberd and sent him crashing to the floor. The command room fell silent. Target neutralized, Hale said. Flagship secured. The death of Cortez rippled across the Dravari fleet. Confusion, panic, retreat. Across the battlefield, human and allied forces surged forward. The Vega corridor was theirs. As the debris of the battle glittered across the void, Hale stood in the ruined command deck, surveying the starfield. Her comms crackled with victory reports. But she knew this was only a beginning. The Dravari Emperor would not forgive this. He would answer with something worse. Something aimed at Earth. Hale closed her eyes, the fires of battle reflecting off her armor. Let him come, she whispered, because humanity was ready. The Warzone was far from over. The oath of the twin heirs. The twin engines of the courier skimmer hummed low as it cut across the shattered plains, weaving through the labyrinth of crystalline ridges like a silver dart. Inside, the cabin lights flickered dimly, leaving the two twins, Astra and Kael, half in shadow as they stared at the hologram projected between them. It was a replay of what their mother had done in the Senate Hall. Every second of it, every word, every beat of silence. Astra watched with her jaw clenched, so tight it trembled. Kael watched with a stillness that was dangerous. The hologram ended with the final frame. Valeria turning her back on the Senate, the red lights of emergency protocols flaring around her. Accusations, betrayal, treason. Astra finally exhaled. She surrendered everything. Kael didn't respond. He simply leaned forward and turned the hologram off. The light died, leaving only the steady thrum of the skimmer. She did it for us, he said at last. His voice was calm, but beneath it was steel. For us. Astra snapped. She destroyed the treaty. She put a target on her own back. She exiled herself from the empire she spent 20 years saving. Kael's eyes didn't waver. Exactly. Why else would she do it? Astra looked away. Through the viewport, jagged shards of obsidian-like rock glittered under the twin suns. The shattered plains were named for the cataclysm that once fractured the world's crust, but they were also a place where fugitives disappeared without trace. Their mother had chosen this as the rendezvous point for a reason. Kael leaned back, arms folded. You saw her face. She didn't hesitate. I know, Astra whispered, and that's what scares me. Kael didn't deny it. Their mother, General Valeria's soul, wasn't someone who bent easily. To watch her break the alliance she had bled to build, it shook something deep in both of them. A soft tone rang through the cockpit. The skimmer's sensors caught an approaching transponder. A familiar one. Astra's heart lurched. She made it. The skimmer slowed as another craft materialized from behind a jagged ridge. A stealth transport scarred from weapons fire. One of its engines sputtered, barely functional. It landed hard on a flat shelf of rock, sending dust spiraling into the air. Astra and Kael jumped out before the ramp fully lowered. Valeria descended the ramp slowly. It wasn't the confident stride of the Galactic Commander the news feed showed. Her armor was cracked, half melted in places, smeared with soot and blood. The wound on her shoulder was deeper than she'd let on. She tried to straighten, to maintain the posture expected of her, but her legs shook. Astra ran to her first. Kael wasn't far behind. Valeria held up a hand weakly. I'm fine. Focus. She wasn't fine. They all knew it, but they didn't argue. Mother, Kael said quietly, the Senate issued a planetary arrest order. They called you a threat to the Empire. Valeria gave a humorless smile. I'm flattered. Astra winced. This isn't the moment for jokes. No, Valeria agreed. She looked at them both, really looked like she was memorizing them. Because we don't have much time. She reached into her armor and pulled out a data core no larger than her palm. It pulsed with a faint blue glow. This, she said, contains evidence of the Empire's cleansing operations. Proof of what they did on Ilion. Proof they tried to bury. It's why the Senate struck first. Kael's expression darkened. Why not release it to the public? Because the Senate controls the networks, Valeria said. Every channel, every relay. They'll filter it, twist it, bury it under propaganda. But there is one place they cannot touch. The outer relay nexus, Astra finished. Neutral territory. Exactly. Valeria pressed the core into Astra's hands. You two are going there. Astra froze. Us. Kael didn't blink. What about you? Valeria's gaze softened. I'll draw the Empire's fleets after me. Give you the time you need. Astra felt her chest tighten. That's suicide. No, Valeria said firmly. That's being your mother. The wind swept across the plateau, carrying dust between them. Astra shook her head, voice trembling. We can't let you go alone. Kael stepped closer. There must be another way. There isn't. Valeria cupped Kael's face, then Astra's. Listen to me. I didn't break the treaty. I exposed it. The Senate fractured it long before today. If you release this evidence, the Empire collapses under the weight of its own lies. Astra swallowed hard. Kael clenched his fists. Valeria looked at them with a fierceness that was both maternal and unyielding. You two will finish what I started, but you will do it together. A comm signal blared suddenly. Long-range scanners picking up Imperial ships entering orbit. Valeria straightened. She pulled her helmet back on. It's time. Astra grabbed her arm. Mother. Valeria leaned in, touching her forehead to Astra's. To protect the future, sometimes we must burn the past. Then to Kael. You are stronger than you think. Don't let the Empire turn you into what it turned me into. She stepped back, turned, climbed the ramp. The last thing they saw before the hatch closed was her silhouette, tall, battered, unbroken. The transport lifted, engines roaring as it shot toward the sky. Astra and Kael watched until it became a single streak of light. Then even that faded. Astra wiped her eyes angrily. Kael placed a hand on her shoulder. She bought us time, he said. We can't waste it. Astra nodded. Slowly, painfully, they turned back to their skimmer. Together, and with the data core glowing faintly between them, the twins set course for the outer relay nexus, the last neutral ground in a galaxy about to ignite. The Empire had hunted their mother. Now the children of Valeria would hunt the truth.